This is the project where you will learn the most basic mechanics that are used in the most popular 2D games. All you need to know to follow along this project are functions, loops, arrays, and if statements. This is the first version of our game. You have a map that is represented by hash symbols, and then you have a pop-up message that asks you where you want to put your unit. I need to provide index, and similar to arrays, index are 0 based. I can put 0, and then I press OK, and now we see our align unit that is represented by A letter on the first line, and on the last line we see an enemy that is represented by E letter. Then again I can add a new unit. I type 0 and press OK again, and now you see that units are moving towards each other. The purpose of this game is to reach the end of the map, but when two units collide, they destroy each other. For example, let's continue, and now you will see how on the third line, two units will be disappeared because they will collide. And if I reach the end of the map, I have the message that you win, and I don't have pop-ups anymore. In the future, we will add more units and create a full stack application with graphics and multiplayer. What we need to do to make our game? First of all, we need to create a function that displays our map in the console. In the game creation, the typical name for this function is draw. Then we need to add allies and enemies on this map. Then we need to create a function with the logic of movements of our units. And last but not least is to create a winning logic. So we need to have a function that would check if we have a winner. And if we have, we need to stop this game. Let's create our map. And as you see, this variable should be string, but we will store it as a 2D array because we need to get access to each symbol independently. A 2D array is an array that contains arrays. I create an array, then I expand it by pressing enter, and now I will create a new array. And inside of this array, I will store hash symbols. This is a row and this is a column. And in one row, we have 5 hash symbols. So I will add 5 hash symbols separated by comma. And now this array represents our first row. After this array, I need to put a comma. I again press enter, and now I create our new array. And it will be absolutely identical because each row is the same. Let's add more lines. When I add the last array, I need to delete the last comma. And now you see that this grid is very similar to our map. This map is an array. This is not a string representation. So for the clarity, I will add array to the name of this variable. And now this variable calls map array. Let's write our first function. This function should draw our map. To do it, we need to convert our map array into map string, and then we need to log it to the console. So I create a new variable map string that is equal to empty string. And then we need to iterate over each symbol in this map array and add it to map string. We'll need to extend this string, so this is the reason why I changed the keyword const to let. And now I write a for loop. This is the most common loop to iterate through each item in the array. Usually we use arrayname.length property instead of 5, but now for the clarity, I hard-coded this value to 5 because we have 5 rows. As you remember, we can get access to each element by index. What we will have if I access to our array with index of I. For example, I is equal to 0. So I change the I to 0, and if we look at our array, the first element with index of 0 is the first line of this array, so the first row. It means that if I access to the array with I, it will give me a row from this map. Let's store this in the variable. And now we know that this row is a simple array that contains strings. So it means that we can iterate through this array again. For that, I will write the second for loop. On this time, my for loop is inside of another for loop, and this is the reason why I can't use the same variable's name, and I need to change our variable I to something else. By convention, if we write the second for loop, we use the name j instead of I. So I also wrote j less than 5 because this row contains 5 elements. And then I write j++ as we did with I. These two for loops are absolutely the same, but the name of the variable is different. If I access row with the index of j, I will get one of these elements. So it means that I can save it as a tile. A tile is simply a string, this one element from the map. Now we need to add it to our map string to display it in the future. If I just add tile to map string, I will eventually have a string with 25 symbols length, but I also want to separate them into each line. As we have in our map array, let's create a row of string and then we will add rows to the map string. I rename our variable row to row array. I also need to rename this row as well. After row array, I create a new variable row string. I use the keyword let because we will add elements to this row string. Now let's add a tile to a row string. Eventually this string will contain 5 hash symbols, and when we finish this for loop, we need to add this row to our map string. We also want to put each row on a new line, and for that we have a \n symbol. This symbol adds a new line, so it works the same as pressing enter on a keyboard. And when we finish both for loops, we can display our map in the console. So let's test our function. For that I need to call it. And now you see that we have a map in the console. Do you remember this overview? These are components of our game loop. The simplest way to implement a game loop is by using a while loop. I create a new while loop. I also add break keyword to prevent an infinite loop. So we need to write a condition for our while loop. So the condition while we need to play. And generally we need to play while we don't have a winner. Let's go to the top of our project, and before the map array, let's declare a winner. I create a new variable winner that equals to false, and I start from the keyword let because I know that in the future I need to change this variable to the actual winner. And now instead of the keyword true, we can use the condition while our winner equals to false. We also have a shortcut for this condition, which is a not operator before the keyword winner. So it means while our winner is false, so while we don't have a winner, we need to do something. And for example, we need to draw our map. So we can add this action to our for loop. All the further functions that we will create, we will add to this while loop. In the next episode, we will add allies and enemies on the map and determine the movement logic for them.